Okay, very good.
Hi, so I'm John Cezanne, and I'm a member of the Olympia Indivisible Endorsement Research Team. And we're here tonight to talk to Anthony Hemstad, who's a candidate for Commissioner for District 3, and uh, find out a little bit about Anthony's campaign and what he's all about. So, Anthony, why don't you just give us a few minutes on why you're running and a little bit about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, very good. Thank you, John, and thank you to Olympia Indivisible also for being so engaged with the port and for putting this process together. I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you and hear more about your concerns as well. But I like yourselves, I really do care about the port. I think there are many improvements that could be made with the port and port services. I've been involved with the port in the past. For the last 3 years, I've been a member of the POCAC, the Port of Olympia Citizens Advisory Committee. And when POCAC set up an economic development committee within the last year, I've been the chairman of that group as well. So I'm already very engaged with the organization. I hadn't intended to run for office just a few months ago, or just maybe 6, 8 weeks ago, actually. Jasmine Vasavada, who of course Olympia Indivisible has um, endorsed in the past, she approached me when she knew there was going to be an open seat and encouraged me to run for the seat. I talked with the other commissioners and other people on POCAC. All of the current commissioners have endorsed me and encouraged me to run. And uh, uh, we'll give a little bit of background about myself and why commissioners would like to see me run and be to join them on the commission. I'm from Olympia. I grew up here. Went to Garfield, Jefferson, and Capitol here on the west side. Um, I moved away for about 30 years and came back about 12 years ago to raise my own family here in Olympia. Because again, I think Olympia and Thurston County is a great place to raise a family, and I would like to see it continue to be a great place for people to live and move and have a good life and a good lifestyle. And I'd like to see good jobs be here in Olympia uh, where the next generation could stay and thrive as well. Um, Ports are very much hybrid organizations. They're special purpose districts that are governments, but they have lots of uh, business and economic development duties as well. Similarly, I've had a very hybrid career. I really split between public policy, and I've worked in public policy at the local, state, national, and international levels. But then I've also worked a lot in the private sector in economic development, and I have some real successes in those areas. I of most relevance to the Port of Olympia is my local government experience, where I've been a city manager. I've also been an elected official. Was a hospital elected to a 6 year term for the hospital district up in King County, which is many times bigger than the Port of Olympia as far as employees and assets and the like. And strangely, if I succeed and become elected, I'll actually have more elected official experience than anyone on the commission right now. And that says something about just how new the Olympia Port Commission is right now, and could probably actually use more experience and a wide array of experience. Um, in economic development, I've headed up considerable economic development organizations, including the World Trade Center Tacoma and the World Trade Center in San Francisco. And in those areas, I worked extensively to bring in and expand international trade between the Pacific Northwest and parts around the world, and have been very, very successful in that. I also have helped in bringing in foreign direct investment into the South Sound region, and have succeeded in bringing hundreds of millions of dollars into foreign investment that have helped grow businesses and make major developments. The most notable of which that people here would recognize. Apologies for the dog barking there, some activity, but is Point Ruston. Point Ruston initially was a brownfield site that had to be remediated, and it was really unbankable initially. And we went out and got the first $60 million in Asia that helped get them started for their multifamily development just 25 miles up the coast here from Olympia. So that may be more than you wanted, but hopefully that gives an idea of why I'm running and some of my background.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and also you have really deep roots here. Your father was a state senator from the area here, correct? Dick Hemstad. That's your
Yes,
dad.
yes, no, that's true. Yeah, no, and very proud of that Hempstead heritage and the utilities and transportation building. It had been named after him, and was named after him shortly after he passed away. And so yes, I have deep roots here and really love the community, and also I'm deeply invested in public policy and trying to do the best public policy as well. I feel that I owe that to my father and others. And also on that, I worked with Dan Evans and Ralph Monroe and others of those moderate uh, politicians who have really focused at trying to do the best public policy possible. And just one second. Sorry about that.
Okay, you're
Yeah,
back with us.
yeah. No, my son and friends came home and I didn't realize I was on a meeting. So
Okay. So, how about giving us a little explanation of what you do, what you're doing as a member of the POCAC?
yeah, sure. With POCAC, I do head up the Economic Development Committee, and while that's a relatively new committee, I think one success that's really notable in the months that we have been active is we were at the forefront of bringing this opportunity for electric foil ferries to Olympia. Um, I'm active in this foil ferry movement of trying to introduce these as part of kind of a new mosquito fleet for the Puget Sound area, and of course the Olympia area. Olympia was well served by the mosquito fleet once upon a time, and we have not had passenger ferries for decades now. And really, it hasn't been feasible in recent decades. But now, with this new technology, with these electric foil ferries, which are much faster, they're emission free, they're electric, and since they go up on foils, they have almost no wake, and uh, they're fast enough that they could go from here to the Des Moines Marina, which is just a mile from SeaTac Airport, in in about 80 minutes. So that's comparable to driving and faster than the Capital Airporter right now. Well, at least for me, it's faster than the Capital Airport. It depends on where you get on in the airport,
Yeah.
but often for me, it'll take 2 hours as the airporter stops at several places and then can get caught in traffic and other things. But I, um, and while I don't think Olympia will be in the first wave of these electric passenger foil ferries, I think we could be a credible route for potentially connecting to Tacoma, SeaTac Airport, and Seattle in the future. And um, uh, Potentially a very, very exciting opportunity there, I think. Also, we have talked, uh, we're talking with the commission now on other aspects of our work plan. We've been looking at uh, expanding the use of foreign trade zones, and that's especially important right now with the absolute craziness that is tariff policy coming out of the federal government, and it is making it very difficult for all ports to react. But we're looking for ways to mitigate that craziness and trying to find ways that the Port of Olympia can be more competitive in a what is a very competitive area and is becoming much more complicated due to the very unhelpful policies of the federal government right now. Um, POCAC is also talked about, and in our next meeting, we'll be talking about electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, which we think would that the Olympia Airport should be a leader in this technology, and it fits in many different ways. It means we wouldn't need to expand air runways there. Again, it is emission free, and service can be used by those type of aircraft, and that would cost a fraction of the cost of service from traditional aircraft. In that the cost of charging these is a tiny fraction of the jet fuel or aircraft fuel that traditional planes use. And so I think it will revolutionize air traffic or air travel, and it will make smaller airports like Olympia much more relevant. And since they can go vertical, um, they can also service other areas beyond just the airport. We could even put them down to the Port Peninsula, for instance.
Right.
And if something could fit on a helipad, these things could be used.
Yeah. My
Uh,
understanding, they don't require an airport. They just
yeah,
require, yeah,
right. And for a variety of reasons in air traffic control, it may make sense to at
yeah.
least start at the airport, but I think they will expand. And while many people say, well, okay, that's the Jetsons, that's not going to happen, but it's already being used right now in the Gulf, the Persian Gulf or
Yeah.
Gulf of Arabia, depending on how, and they have signed this big contract for the Los Angeles Olympics in 2028, and they're expecting to have hundreds of these shuttling people around LA, and I think that's a proof of concept. And if that works, and yes, they still have to get over some hurdles with the FAA and other things, but
Yeah. I
but
just got back from LA 2 days ago,
oh
and
yeah.
if they could alleviate some of that traffic there, that would be great.
Yeah, no, and it's really needed.
Yeah.
And for us, okay, that would be competition for the foil ferries because that could also ferry people up to SeaTac to be able to get onto flights, but also connect with secondary airports or
Yeah.
Yakima, Port Angeles, the Tri-Cities, Portland. But it just opens a whole bunch of new opportunities. So I'm really excited about
So,
it.
so
Yeah,
speaking of the airport,
yeah.
what is your position on the AMP, the Airport Master Plan update? Would you seek want to see changes in it, or you think it should be accepted as is? I think it now is being challenged because people think it requires an EIS to proceed. What are your views on the AMPU?
Yeah, well, and you know, I I've heard some people say, well, okay, we don't need an airport master plan, but we have to have an airport master plan. I mean, it's required by the FAA, and I as it is written today, I mean, if I was going to write it, I would do it a bit differently, and I do think we need to be planning for and budgeting for electric aircraft today. And would want and yes, it is mentioned. Would want to make that a much more central part of the program, and would really work for Olympia to be on the cutting edge of this, and not be a late adopter, but be one of the first adopters. Because I also think uh, there will need to be infrastructure in order to attract these, and in this case, I think if we build it, they will come.
Okay,
And
so yeah, and that's the question. So if it were, say, if it were come before the commission for a vote today, would you be a yes, or would you be abstain, or
I, I would love to amend it if possible, but if it has to be a yes and no, would would probably vote yes, and then but nothing in it gets done. It would have to come to the commission for parts within the master plan to actually be acted upon, and at that point we can change it.
I see. Okay, so what about the commission's decision to proceed with the construction of the Panettone South Sound Commerce Center, the 500, almost just about 500 square foot warehouse, and that by Panettone? Uh, what are your views about that?
Yeah, well, at this point, with the work that's been done with it, I think it would have been a very difficult thing to reject it now. I mean, it is so far down the road, and so much work has been done on it. Ideally, I would like to. I There is so little industrial land that is in Thurston County, and that light industrially zoned land, it is at a premium, and I think will need it in the future. And so warehouses are not necessarily highest and best use for that land. I But I believe with Panettone, I as of now they don't have a tenant, so it would be being built on spec. I would encourage built on spec, built speculatively, expecting that they will find a tenant once it is constructed. We'll try not to talk in lingo, and if I do, kick me here. But I think the port should very proactively, through its economic development and marketing people and commissioners, work to help Panettone find a more value added tenant than just warehousing. Because and a tenant that would have a much higher employee to square footage ratio than most warehouses have, and would also warehouses can actually pay reasonably well, but light manufacturing will pay much better, and we should be striving whenever possible. When there are developments on port property that we are bringing in family wage jobs, because that's what the community wants and expects. I would much prefer if we can have jobs paying 30, 40, $50 an hour rather than 18 to $25 an hour.
Yeah. Um, so there are plans, and Pantone is planning another warehouse there. Uh, I think in the same size, same dimensions that they're starting to work on now. Is that something that you approve of?
Well, I would have to look at the agreements that are in place between Panattoni and the port on what can actually be changed, because I do believe in contracts. And if there's a commitment, there may be things we can't change. But again, I would want us to stress to try to get uh, the most utility out of whatever port land does develop, and the most economic development impact, positive impact, for Thurston County residents.
Well, there were environmental concerns about developing their, impervious surface, the destruction of trees. A lot of local environmentalists were not real pleased about the whole thing. And so I guess, can you address some of that? Those
Sure,
concerns?
I it will have an impact on the local environment, certainly, and we would want to make sure that we do utmost possible to limit and mitigate that impact. I but would also stress that this is industrial zoned, and commercially zoned property within the urban growth boundary, next to an airport and next to I-5, for much of it. So it's, in the big scheme of things, if we're going to have industrial land, this is a pretty good place to have it. As long as uh, uh, proper mitigation can take place. I uh, and The science of surface water management has improved markedly in the last 20 years, and so uh, that water can be captured and um, cleaned and put back into the system, in surface water management ponds. I would um, I'm a big proponent of getting solar panels on every big building, and so I'm not sure how proactively we can make Panattoni do that. But if you're going to have a gigantic roof, for a 500,000 or 600,000 square foot building, I think it's painful if it's not used. and and uh, and especially with so much more electrification taking place, both within light industrial and warehouses, they need that electricity, and they may not be thrilled about it up front, because it does increase the capital costs. But since these are 75-year leases, I those panels will pay back. Okay, not instantly, but depending on the price of electricity and depending on a variety of things, between 10 and 20 years, most
Yeah.
likely. And they will have a much longer lifespan than that. So it just makes sense all around. And so I think the Port of Olympia should be an absolute leader on that. And for its own properties too. I mean, on the port's warehouse down at the marine terminal, we have a half dozen, I think,
Yeah.
broken solar panels.
Sure.
uh,
I'm sure you and Joel Hansen probably have a
yes,
lot of agreement about that.
certainly,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're starting to run out of time. So I
Oh,
got
okay,
one last
okay,
question for
yeah,
you.
please.
So on our question about the Weyerhaeuser lease beyond 2032, you responded, well, it's unlikely I'll still be a commissioner at that point.
Yeah,
But in 2027, um, there uh, their lease will come up for the option will be renewed and have to be approved by the commissioners. And I'm thinking at that time, would you commit to making it clear to Weyerhaeuser that uh, at 2032 that they will not be given a renewal or uh, to continue to ship logs from that location?
Well, I don't think the warehouse release as it currently stands is a great deal for the port. I I I think Weyerhaeuser did a great job of negotiating that, but that's not necessarily an incredibly positive thing for the people of Thurston County, in that the value that and income that the port receives per shipment is quite low, and most other types of shipments, such as the Sedano shipments, are much more profitable for the port than a Weyerhaeuser ship right now. Plus, most of the port marina property, it's covered with logs right now.
Yeah.
So if it were to continue, I think it would need to be renegotiated on a much more favorable basis for the Port of Olympia and the people of Thurston County. But I do think that we should be looking at a variety of different uses on the Port Peninsula, and would love to try to get some of those started here in the meantime, so we have a proof of concept, so that I we can look at highest and best use for much more of that peninsula than I think is being used today.
Okay. So you would be amenable to telling Weyerhaeuser that, beyond 2032, it's unlikely that there would be a lease for them.
That at minimum the
I mean,
minimum,
I'm saying I think that it would be fair to them to just give them notice.
yeah, at minimum that the terms of the lease would have to be very different than they are today.
Okay. All
Uh,
right. Well,
it would be part of a negotiation, of course. Yeah.
yeah. So any parting comments that you'd like to tell, anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to tell us about, or anything else that you want to say before we end the interview here?
Yeah. In many ways, it makes no sense for me to be doing this. I have a thriving consultancy as it is. I'm really busy, but I really want to be a commissioner because I can see all the things that just the possibilities of much better things for the port and the community, and that the community could get much more benefits than we have today. I think I'm fairly uniquely placed in a way that I can call on contacts from around the world, and I have done very well at working with different levels of government. I think we can put partnerships together, and I think we can make things happen. But I and I could be infinitely more impactful on that as a commissioner than as a volunteer on POCAC. And would just flag that people of both Republicans and Democrats have seen that. Marilyn Strickland has endorsed me, as has Dave Upthegrove, the Commissioner of Public Lands, Chris Reichdahl, um, uh, many others. And so we have a very divisive and polarized electorate these days. I'm not one of those on the polls. I can pull people together, and I think we need more of that at all levels of government. And I would love to do that with the Port Commission, and working with groups like Olympia Indivisible. My door will always be open, and would love to work with you guys to try to improve what happens at the port and in Thurston County.
Well, thanks so much for spending this time with us. I think I've learned a little bit more about you,
Great,
and
thank you, John.
and enjoyed the conversation. So thanks again,
Likewise.
and good luck in the campaign.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right.
Appreciate it. Okay. Bye bye.
Thanks.